All right, we're live. Hello, everyone. This is Stephen Wallman from Wallman's Apothecary with another episode of Understanding CBD. Today, we're going to talk about surprising benefits of CBD when it comes to beauty and wellness. We have our fantastic nurse, Renee Reisinger, who's just going to join us in a second. But I wanted to sort of set the stage here and why we're really talking about beauty and wellness and what role CBD plays. A lot of people don't realize that the largest organ in your body is your skin, and things that you put on your skin can be absorbed. So what type of deodorant you have, what type of laundry detergent you use, does impact your body. It does get absorbed. So what we can do now is talk to Nurse Renee, and let's have her join us here. There we go.
Hello.
Hey, Renee, how are you today?
Good. How are you?
Fantastic. So glad you could join us again today and give us some of that wise words of wisdom and guide us along our use of cannabis. And, today we were talking about beauty and wellness. And, that can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people. But when we think about beauty and wellness, what do you think about when we bring up that topic?
Beauty is something that's so personal, and it's different for every person and every culture. What one person thinks is beautiful, it might not appeal to somebody else. I think when we discuss beauty, we need to be very conscious and sensitive to different people's perspective, and respect everyone as beautiful.
Right. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, as they say. So you're right on there. And I think my intention of the topic is really to help people that aren't familiar with cannabis as medicine understand that there are unique and special ways that you can use cannabis topically, and systemically that can impact the way you feel and the way you look, because beauty is only skin deep and beauty comes from within. So all these are very important when we talk about CBD and beauty. One of the first questions that I had for you, which is on the surface level of beauty, when people talk about CBD or cannabis in beauty products, do you have any advice or guidance around the use of cannabinoids topically, maybe just in facial beauty products?
Yes, that's a good question. So I'm a nurse and a nurse practitioner. So as somebody, that diagnoses and treats, I really think I think about a lot of different like use, risk, side effect, and benefit before I suggest anything. Now with CBD, the CBD and the hemp plant's been around for thousands of years. The word of caution with CBD is that it's a biosynthesizer plant, along with the typical family of cannabis sativa L, which is sativa indica, and the hemp. When these are planted in the soil, I think as we discussed, they pull toxins out of the soil. So we want to be careful, what we're putting in and on and inhaling in our body as far as plant cannabis. And really the same goes for anything, that we're ingesting or breathing or putting on our skin. There are a lot of endocrine disruptors that are FDA allowed in our food source, that also should be getting talked about, things that we put on our skin. Some of the makeups that have a lot of endocrine disruptors, deodorants. Like you said, the skin is one of the largest organs in the body. And there are three body systems: our respiratory system, which inhales our air; our skin, which absorbs products that are put on our skin; and what we ingest gets into our GI tract. Now, the endocannabinoid system, as we know, because it was discovered in the 1990s or 1988, is the master regulator of every other system in our body. So the endocannabinoid system, there are CB1, CB2 receptors in our skin, and what we put in our skin greatly affects our endocannabinoid system. So what we're putting on there, if it's healthy, it's going to improve skin disorders or aging skin, any type of issue or disease symptom that you're having on your skin. So I found a really nice app that I like to use that a lot of people that know me don't like me to pull that out and like, oh, let me scan that QR code, or not the QR code, but the barcode. It's a Yucca app that I recently discovered, and you can look at the barcode and it'll let if it's got, dyes in it or, contaminants, things like that. So, that's important. What we eat is important. The products that we put on our skin are important because it's, like I said, or like you said, our skin is one of the largest organs in our body. So going back to your question, I'm sorry, I went around the block with
No,
that.
it's fine. It's fine. Because I had another question as you were talking. And I think it might be worth kind of going back to, because you mentioned the term endocrine disruptor. Now, most of the audience that we're targeting with these conversations are like me for the most part. We're just laymen. We study, we want to learn, we want to be well, but a lot of the terms can just kind of go right over our head, and I don't want to brush past that and not spend some time on the concept of an endocrine and what an endocrine disruptor is. Can you just kind of break it down in the simplest possible terms for us?
So they're generally regarded as safe, and then they were grandfathered into our food system because they hadn't really been studied before. And as time has gone by, a lot of the endocrine disruptors that interrupt the normal process of our cell function have been found to be unhealthy. But as of yet,
so the endocrine system is related to our cell function?
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to just understand what that is. It may seem simple, but I hear a lot of terms all the time, and I just want to make sure that I'm getting it right. So the endocrine system is the function of our cells and how they.
Yes. So it's part of how the mechanism of action of the cells work. Endocrine disruptors. It disrupts the normal process of cellular function, the endocrine system. So there are a lot of things in our, in our food source, and things in our automobiles, things in our household cleaners, things that we breathe in the air that aren't healthy. So, I think what we want to do is try to educate ourselves. Like you said, you wanted to talk about beauty and wellness, and part of wellness is health. Right. And I think that's what I said, before, my world has been, health. And, now as I move more into wellness, I'm learning more about health and wellness that I didn't know before. So, I try to educate people when I talk to and certify them for medical cannabis about other ways to keep your endocannabinoid system healthy and tuned up. A healthy diet, exercise, stress reduction, meditation, and all of those body systems that I mentioned that have contact with the environment, our respiratory system, because we're inhaling the air, what we eat, because what we put in our mouth goes into our GI tract. And we know that our GI tract is full of CB1, CB2 receptors that affect our endocrine system and can work for or against health. Same as skin. So this is a great topic to talk about, skin health. And as far as CBD products go, I encourage people to use CBD products if they have a certificate of analysis, so what you're putting on your skin doesn't have a lot of contaminants in it. The certificate of analysis is important. In Maryland, Maryland's Medical Cannabis Commission, through the state legislature, rolled out a very, what we call robust, or a very, I think, a high quality medical cannabis program, because we were later to the game than I think some of the states in the West. So Maryland requires testing from the grower to the processor to the dispensary, and labeling of terpenes and cannabinoids. So, nothing's perfect. But I think because those standards for, testing are there, which is one reason I got into working in the field, because I felt like I was, talking to patients about a product that would be, more or less relatively safe to use. And we'll go back to this, routes of administration, whether you're inhaling it into your respiratory system, whether you're taking it orally, or whether you're putting it topically on your skin. So as a healthcare provider, with patients that I've certified, I found that patients that use the topical medical cannabis, they have THC, have CBD. Apparently, to the best of my knowledge, and I may be incorrect about this, I believe that most of those are compounded with coconut oil as the carrier molecule. Unless you're allergic to coconut oil, I think the topical products have a high benefit and low risk unless you're allergic to something that it's compounded with. And if you buy the product in Maryland at a Maryland dispensary, it's going to list what it's compounded with. So you want to educate, people to read that label.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, because just because something's natural doesn't mean it's going to be good for you.
Yes.
And allergies to terpenes is also a thing. You can be allergic to lavender. Linalool is a very common terpene, and lavender is also common in cannabis. Pinene people can also be allergic to, which doesn't necessarily mean if you see it on a label you would know, but if you have a reaction to a product, then you can at least refer to what was in it, and then use that as starting to, to track down what some of the ingredients might be that can cause that reaction.
Yes, that's good information. And I don't think I really had zeroed in on that. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. It's one of the reasons that we are, at least at Wallman's Apothecary, extremely transparent with our labeling. And it's not always, I'm a believer that it's really challenging to pinpoint a terpene for a specific result for a patient for any real condition. I just think it's real early, and there's so many variables that play into it. So when I think of the quality of sourcing the product is equally as important to diagnose what may help you, but it's even better for tracking and tracing if something were to go wrong. So like batch tracing is an example. If you were able to, if there was an adverse reaction to one of our products or any product, to be able to go back to the specific batch, to know where it was grown, where it was processed, making sure that it was tested, is really important. And just to kind of talk about testing really quickly, because this is one of the areas that I spend a lot of my time, is the shortcuts that a lot of cannabis companies take in testing. A lot of people will purchase a product and they will test the actual CBD or the cannabis that comes in the door if they're not doing it themselves. Or if they're buying flower, they'll get the lab report from the person, the farmer that grew it. And then they'll process it in the lab. And the final test that they only do is for a potency test that might just say what cannabinoids and terpenes are there, not knowing that cannabis not only is a bioaccumulator from the soil, but if you're using certain types of scissors to cut the plants, there can be heavy metals that chip off if you're grinding cannabis in certain ways. If you're using certain types of glass that aren't the right quality, or stainless steel, all of these things can get into the product. So I always make sure that when I talk to consumers about selecting a cannabis product, that when they have a lab report, that it's the final lab report of the finished consumer good of actually what's in the bottle. Not just, hey, this is what the cannabis looked like, but once we got the cannabis, we processed it, and we put it in the bottle, that you have that final report. That's really the report that we show to consumers, is the final report. The reports that we use on the back end kind of leading up to that are really not relevant for them. It's more just for us as securing our investment, to make sure that we're not buying something that already has heavy metals in it, and that we are selecting the proper materials to use in the lab. We actually have an Understanding CBD stream coming up with Robert Thomas, who is very passionate about heavy metals, and we'll be able to dig deeper into that in an episode coming up.
I think I have one of his books that he wrote.
Yeah, he's actually from Maryland too.
Okay. Right. So yes, you bring up good points. And with cannabis, there's so many moving parts in the industry, and I think as you and I, we're talking to people about this. There's always new things to learn. There's always new things for me to learn, and I think we just want to present the best information and science that we can.
Yeah. So back to that, back to the information and science. When we're talking about products that someone may have like a skin irritation. So as a nurse practitioner, someone presents and says, I have dry skin. Um, is that a go-to topical, or is there also a systemic, ingestible solution to dry skin? Is it always one or the other, both? Can you shed any light on that?
So, you would want to get a good medical history on the patient and find out, what type of, maybe systemic problem they have, or is it, some local irritation, from a new product they used, or, from, hiking in the woods and brushing up against poison ivy. So it's very individualized. And then, you would want to get the history, current medicines, past, how long has this been going on? What have you used in the past? Is this something new and acute, or is it something chronic? And then, go from there. And then always, discuss with the patient, what their goals are.
Got it. So it's a good answer. I think each situation is unique, and there really isn't just a one size fits all. Even though we always look for one, we always just want the easy answer, and I appreciate it. Are there any things or ingredients that are known endocrine disruptors to look out for in beauty products that you're aware of?
So like I was talking about with the Yucca app, that is maybe a good place for people to start.
And is that like the fruit yucca, YUCCA?
YUKA.
YUKA?
And that was one that I found from being on a website that was talking about dyes in our food system. I think you can get on like the FDA website and Google endocrine disruptors and look at some of the .gov websites, and you'll get a drop-down list. It's interesting. There's also an article in projectcbd.org I can send you that has a really good write-up about the endocannabinoid system and what we eat, and it talks about endocrine disruptors, and it's got a hyperlink that'll direct you to a government website that talks about generally regarded as safe things that are allowed in our food that other countries don't allow in their food sources. So that's interesting.
Yeah, it always is. How about when we talk about beauty, the pimple, the acne that people, have you heard any use of cannabis for acne?
So I've been blessed to work as a medical director at Vanity Skin Bar in Baltimore with the nurse Kara Heim, who's extremely talented with cosmetic procedures and a woman in business. She's connected with what did I tell you it was called? The Cannabis Spa Network, I think, Cannabis Spa Association that started in California, Cannabis Spa Foundation. And her business was one of the first to join. And I think the medical director for that is our pharmacist, Dr. Cody Peterson, that graduated from University of Maryland in 2022. So her med spa was very embraced by this new organization, and we have been using some CBD products with patients, and they have gotten some really good outcomes with skincare with that. Through the years with patients, I found people that use the topical medical cannabis, the half THC CBD, have found it helps with a lot of other skin ailments. It just improves outcomes.
Okay. Well, when we talk about the skin absorbing anything that you touch to it, there is a difference between a product that's been formulated for the skin versus something that would penetrate a little bit deeper. And I know you have some experience with the term would be transdermal, which is something that's going to get through that thick layer of skin and actually get into the bloodstream. Can you share some of the experience you've had with transdermal?
There were a few patients a couple years ago that were using transdermal patches for more generalized joint pain. I know I had a young woman with fibromyalgia that was rather petite, and she said it wasn't practical for her to use a topical product all over. And that was back when the transdermal patch was available in the dispensaries. And she educated me about how it worked for her, that you put it on a part of your body that doesn't have a lot of fat, so it gets absorbed more systemically. And she said that she cut the transdermal patch and put it on her wrist, and she got quite a bit of pain symptom relief with that. And then as the years went by, I did find that patients told me they were looking for it, and it's not available in the Maryland dispensaries anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I mean, go ahead.
Right. In the industry, there's different products that come and go. A new method of delivery I found that appeared during COVID. A lot of times I had found people with autoimmune disorders would use an Epsom salt bath soak in the evening to try to relax them and help them get a good night's sleep and help with pain. I had seen THC Epsom salt bath soaks available. I think I also, in a few dispensaries, had seen CBD, THC Epsom salt bath soaks. So that is also an option. The topical application, the RSO, the Rick Simpson oil, which is the concentrate of lots of different cannabis types. If you read about the Rick Simpson oil, I think he discovered, that on his basal cell, he had a basal cell cancer that he put it on, and anecdotally, he said, it healed it. So, you'll read anecdotal, incidents about that. And then, like I said, there's research out there. So if you look at the Society for Cannabis Clinicians in their research library, if you look at the International Alliance for Cannabinoid Medicines, there's a lot of research there. Another favorite of mine is CannaKeys. For a very small fee, you can get a subscription, and they take and compile data and make it easier for people like myself, that maybe doesn't want to sit and do or doesn't have the time for the research that maybe they did before. CannaKeys is a great resource because you can get into it and look for specific diseases or look for specific symptom reliefs, and it'll help direct you to studies that you can share with patients.
Okay, well, I got it. I've been waiting on this question, debating whether or not to ask it or not. I don't know if you have any experience on this, but I've heard, and I don't know what it's called, but people talk about putting, and they've asked me this before, if they can put a drop of the tincture in their belly button.
Yes. So, yes, I did hear about that. And it was one of the people that was in my class that was on the West Coast, because I think a lot of the West Coast has been working with cannabis as medicine and recreational longer than us. And I forgot the name for it, but I did, if you want, I'll look it up. There's a medical term for that. Applying it to
I remember there was a word for it. I couldn't remember it, but is that real? I mean, can you put something in your belly button? Like is it umbilical, something like that? Or
so the thought is, that because there's not a lot of muscle or fat there, that it would get absorbed a little bit more systemically. And my thought would be, as long as you don't have a lot of skin irritation, if your skin's intact and you're not allergic to what's in the product, you could, maybe try a small amount and see if that works. And then, there are a lot of researchers out there that are looking for other delivery methods, because, in science, we're always looking for a better product and a better delivery. So there are a lot of people out there that are looking for specific methods of delivery, as time goes by. I think this is such an exciting field to be in. I think in some places people were looking at, testing and using products and using these vaginally, maybe to help with some GYN issues. So I think we're going to see a lot of science emerging about that. As time goes by, maybe we'll start to see some products specifically developed for ear or ocular or nasal administration. Typically what we see in Maryland, we see inhalation. And then for GI right now, we're mostly seeing oral gummies or edibles or the sublingual tincture drops. Typically, when the industry first started in Maryland, I think when we thought of topical administration. It was the topical products that I think mostly were compounded, like back in the day with coconut oil. Now, I may be wrong. There may be some other carrier products that are being used. And then the transdermal patch was available. And now I've seen the bath soaks. So, I think, just kind of like sit back and hold on. I think, this is amazing.
Yes, we're really, and a lot of people don't realize, even though that it may seem that cannabis is in many states now, it's available with a medical program. It's been a number of years since the Farm Bill passed 2018. I mean, we've been making products for 4 years at least, starting a little bit before 2018, actually, and formulating. So there are a lot of different options. I know aloe leaf gel is a very good carrier that we use topically in our roll-ons. And I also hear black pepper can be a good additive to help get the ingredients to soak a little bit deeper. And we do have a pharmacist that we're going to bring on here as well.
Oh, good.
We interviewed him before, Dr. AJ Sharma. He's local from Little Acorn Farm. Who's a compounding pharmacist. So he's got some tips and tricks also, because, now a lot of people also like to do some things in their home. And now that you can access clean cannabis that's going to be lab tested and certified, you can go to the store, go to a dispensary, pick up a product that has been tested, even if it's the raw flower, and craft some stuff on your own. And I know a lot of people like to make these butters and salves at home because, they're really not too difficult to make. And in small batches, sometimes that's fun to do. Well, Renee, I know I've taken up a lot of your time today, and I always appreciate you joining us on this channel to talk about it.
The Pashadi method. Pashadi method. That's the term for the belly button administration. And Steve, I love that you bring all these different disciplines in, to talk on this broadcast, because as a nurse and a nurse practitioner, I'm just one part, but I love that you're bringing in the chemist, the pharmacist. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thanks, Renee. I appreciate that. And this was a great talk today. I appreciate it. I hope everyone got some value in it and can understand a little bit more about health and beauty and the role that cannabis plays in it. And Renee, I appreciate your contribution again, and we'll look forward to seeing you again.
Okay, you take care.